and the men will be performing with the M1 rifles. Both teams will be dressed in the Cadet Summer Parade uniform. The women's team is commanded today by Cadet Second Class Robin Boyd from Sunnymead, California. The men's team is commanded by Cadet Fourth Class Michael Balcony from Burnsville, Minnesota. Today's performance is dedicated to the Cadet Honor Guard members of the class of 1983 and their parents.
Feel rain? Very funny. Uh-uh. 40 laps.
don't want to go in this way.
Brigadier General Anthony J. Bursing, and the Cadet Wing Commander, Cadet Colonel John D. Zazworsky Jr., I welcome you to this morning's parade. This parade is also being conducted in honor of Major General Robert E. Kelly, our superintendent, who will soon be departing the Air Force Academy for a new assignment. The cadets before you follow in a rich tradition. The Academy has produced 11 general officers, 2 combat aces, 8 astronauts, and 25 Rhodes Scholars. 15 graduates have earned the Air Force Cross, and 1, Captain Lance P. Women from all parts of the United States, along with several cadets from the different territories and allied nations. And athletics. Military leadership is stressed daily in the operation of the cadet wing by the cadets themselves, and is well exhibited in parades such as today's. Academically, the Academy is rated among the top schools in the nation. Athletics is a favorite of all cadets, with practices or games in intramurals or intercollegiate sports occurring almost every day of the week.
Can't get just a bird sit.
Okay, George, let's go. Okay, they're still marching down the ramp. He's outside. Yeah.
Where does it say 0?
Recognizing the critical nature of these failures, General Washington enlisted the assistance of Baron von Steuben, a distinguished Prussian officer. Arriving at Valley Forge in February 1778, Baron von Steuben faced an army of several thousand half-starved, wretched men in rags. To correct these conditions, he set to work immediately and wrote drill regulations designed to teach the discipline of drill to a model company of 120 men selected from the line. Discipline became a part of military life for these selected individuals as they learned to respond to commands without hesitation. As they mastered them, later, members of the model company were distributed throughout the Army to teach drill. It was through this simple emphasis on drill that the effectiveness and efficiency of Washington's Continental Army was improved. In 1770, to ensure continuity, Baron von Steuben wrote the American Army's first field manual, the regulations for the order and discipline of the troops of the United States. These drill procedures placed into effect at Valley Forge were not changed for over 85 years, and many of these drill procedures are still in effect today. The cadet wing is organized very much like an operational Air Force unit. Each large unit you see on the parade field is a squadron of approximately 105 cadets. There are 4 groups of 10 squadrons each for a total of 40 squadrons. An upper-class chain of command is responsible for the administration and operation of the wing under the supervision of the Commandant of Cadets and his staff.
Excuse me.
Let us pray. Lord God, we remember on this Memorial Day those who lie in quiet places they liberated from the horror of war, and all of their comrades in whose eyes and ample make us aware of the responsibility that rests upon us to create peace in our hearts, our homes, and our world. Lead us and inspire us. Make us, your people, to walk in your ways, that this land may become in a new and deeper way, so that those we honor may not have suffered by your name. And now also, good Lord, thank you for this academic year. achievements and successes that were a part of it, for all the well done, for the effort and the satisfaction gained in achieving excellence, for the lessons learned and the commitment to doing one's best, we thank you. May all of us use these lessons of achievement to further our own lives, to bring strength and glory to our professions and our nation, and to continue to work for peace in all corners of our world. We pray this in your name, O God of peace. Amen.
Just prior to the Cadet Wing March-On, the Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General Anthony J. Berznick, and Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey E. Schofield, Vice Chairman of the Association of Graduates of the United States Air Force Academy, placed a wreath at the base of the War Memorial located on the terrazzo in the cadet area. This War Memorial is a gift to the Cadet Wing by the Association of Graduates in tribute to Academy graduates who have given their lives in battle. Let us now observe a moment of silence in their memory. and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of honors. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Still got that car? That's what I'm going to tell you. The chick you're driving in. Really?
Let's go see where we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of our national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Captain Alfred R. Jaycox, Jr., class of 1965. Captain Monty L. Moorberg, class of 1961. Captain Richard T. Morris, class of 1964. Captain James B. Neuendorf, class of 1965. Captain Robert L. Reeves, class of 1964. Captain James W. Wood, class of 1965. Lieutenant Dennis B. Haas, class of 1968. The award is presented by Mr. James E. Spittler, Chairman of the Association of Graduates Board of Directors. The award goes to 4th Group. The group is commanded today by Cadet Colonel Paul J. Majesic, the Fall Semester Group Commander. The Outstanding Squadron Award for outstanding achievement in all areas of unit endeavor. A trophy, engraved plaque, and navy blue guidon streamer. An Air Force Association lifetime membership is awarded to the squadron commanders. Individual gifts are presented to each squadron member. The award is sponsored by the Air Force Association and presented by Mr. David L. Blankenship, President, to the 31st Squadron, 4th Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Gregory W. Wheeler, the Fall Semester Squadron.
The Intercollegiate Athletics Award, a trophy, engraved plaque, and red guidon streamer, in memory of Majors Frederick R. Gillen and Robert F. Slezak, sponsored by Mrs. Gillen and Mrs. Marguerite Slezak Osborne. It's presented today by Brian M. Zebarth, grandson of Major Gillen, to the 25th Squadron, 3rd Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Stephen T. Huskins, Fall Semester Squadron Commander. The Superintendent's Athletic Excellence Award, a trophy, engraved plaque, and cardinal guidon streamer. It is sponsored by the Association of Graduates of the United States Air Force Academy and presented today by Major General Robert E. Kelly, the United States Air Force Academy Superintendent, to the 29th Cadet Squadron of 3rd Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Thomas F. Duda, the Fall Semester Squadron Commander.
Excuse me, sir. I don't want to walk in front of
Flight Guidon Streamer is sponsored by Air Training Command and presented by Major General William R. Usher, Commander, Lowry Technical Training Center, to the 33rd Cadet Squadron of 4th Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Garrett Herensack, Fall Semester Squadron Commander. The Drill and Ceremonies Award, a trophy, engraved plaque, and gold guidon streamer in memory of Ambassador Lawrence A. Steinhardt and Squadron Leader Alan A. Sherlock, Royal Canadian Air Force, is sponsored by Mrs. Alan A. Sherlock and friends. It is presented today by Brigadier General Anthony J. Berznick, United States Air Force Academy Commandant of Cadets, to the 36th Cadet Squadron of 4th Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey L. Stevens, Fall Semester Squadron Commander. The Leadership and Scholarship Award, a trophy, engraved plaque, and blue guidon streamer, is sponsored by the Air Force Academy Foundation, Incorporated. It is presented today by Mr. William J. Hybel, President, to the 37th Cadet Squadron of 4th Group. The squadron is commanded today by Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Mark E. Moyer, the Fall Semester Squadron Commander.
Second row, George.
This here one in front of us?
Yeah, second row. See them? The gold stand.
This here? On the one right in front of us?
George? Get it on.
Tiger 10, the 10th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding, Captain James M. Cox. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Scott D. Popson from St. Petersburg, Florida. The second group Air Officer Commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Vern McConnell. The second group is commanded by Cadet Colonel Merrill J. Allgood Jr. from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Second group Deputy Commander for Operations is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ronald J. Mechanic from Fairport, New York. Second Group Deputy Commander for Support is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Michael W. Sunday from Belfast, Republic of Ireland. Second Group Honor Representative is Cadet Major Dwayne R. Williams from Indianapolis, Indiana. The Second Group Training Officer, Cadet Captain Donald R. Lindbergh from Belen, New Mexico. The Second Group Academic Athletic Officer, Cadet Captain Dana H. Lindsay from Pinyan, New York. The 11th Cadet Squadron, Rebel 11, Air Officer Commanding Captain Ronald L. Moore. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Richard L. Fullerton from Norman, Oklahoma. 30 dozen, the 12th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain James A. Steele. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel J. Philip Bismuth from South Branch, New Jersey. The Bulldogs is the 13th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain James Dotson Jr. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Elijah P. Powell IV from Miami, Florida. The 14th Cadet Squadron, Cobra 14, Air Officer Commanding Captain Thomas T. Fell. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Dale L. Queen from Central Woolley, Washington. The War Eagles of the 15th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Major Jerry W. Shaw. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Richard A. Graham from Fairdale, Kentucky. The 16th Cadet Squadron, the Chicken Hawk. Air Officer Commanding Major Donna R. Mooney. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Greg A. Croston from Tucson, Arizona. The 18th Cadet Squadron, the Night Riders. Air Officer Commanding Major Michael Hunt. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Michael Croy from Monterey, California. Starship, the 19th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Major Robert W. Pollock. The 20th Cadet Squadron, the Top 20 Trolls. Air Officer Commanding Major Rick L. Garrison. Squadron Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Norman H. Palliser from Exeter, Rhode Island. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Air Force Academy Color Guard, under the command of Cadet Master Sergeant Ken White from Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Following the Academy Color Guard is the United States Air Force Academy State Color Squadron, commanded by Cadet Captain Melvin F. Burdick from Elroy, Wisconsin. Flags from all 50 states are represented. The third Group Air Officer commanding is Lieutenant Colonel James O. Johnson. And following the Color Squadron is 3rd Group Staff. The Group Commander is Cadet Colonel Darrell L. Robertson from Webster, Texas. The Deputy Commander for Operations is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel...
Attaboy.
You're not going to film them, are you?
Colonel Robert G. Nolan II from Ithaca, New York. The 8th Squadron Commander was to Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jesse M. Morimoto from Kylene, Texas. The 9th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel John O. Copeland from Atlanta, Georgia. And the 10th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Emmanuel O. Sears from Columbus, Ohio. On 2nd Group Staff, the commander was Cadet Colonel Susan M. Hall from Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Deputy Commander for Operations was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Charles W. Ross from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. The Deputy Commander for Support was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Wanda K. McCoy from Sumter, South Carolina. The Group Honor Representative was Cadet Major Dwayne R. Williams from Indianapolis, Indiana. The Training Officer was Cadet Captain Donald R. Lindbergh from Belen, New Mexico. The Academic Athletic Officer was Cadet Captain David B. Bagby from Sickleville, New Jersey. The Cadet Squadron 11 Commander was Cadet Major Thomas M. Webster from Mountain View, California. The 12th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Quinn B. Newhall from Cincinnati, Ohio. The Squadron Commander of 13 was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Donald J. McGee. The 14th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Russell W. Merritt from San Diego, California. The 15th Squadron was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Terry M. Featherston from Plainfield, Illinois. The 18th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Stephen T. Coton from Helena, Montana. The 19th Cadet Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert L. Greger from Simi Valley, California. And the 20th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Christopher A. Bodeker from St. Ann, Missouri. On 3rd Group staff, the Group Commander was Cadet Colonel Philip D. Tao from Mesa, Arizona. The Deputy Commander for Operations was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Dale C. Fridley from San Diego, California. The Deputy Commander for Support was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Blanche P. Godwin from Raleigh, North Carolina. The Academic Athletic Officer was Cadet Captain Nancy A. Burdick from Meriden, Connecticut. The Training Officer was Cadet Captain Thomas M. Finalora from Pasadena, California. The Group Honor Representative was Cadet Major Robert E. Smith from Mingo Junction, Ohio. The 21st Cadet Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Timothy J. Ward from Mount Prospect, Illinois. The 22nd Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel David L. Ruffley from Ballotson, Pennsylvania. The 23rd Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Joel B. Lindsay from St. George, Utah. The Squadron Commander of 24 was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Roger E. Aldinger from Alden, New York. The 25th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Richard J. Ragler from Whale, Iowa. The Squadron Commander of 26th Squadron was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Andrew J. Salisbury from Colorado Springs, Colorado. The 27th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Glenn L. Mall from Butler, Pennsylvania. The 28th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Philip T. Landman from Woodbridge, Virginia. The 29th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Scott A. Hagan from Menominee, Wisconsin. The 30th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel James C. Miller, Ocean Springs, Massachusetts. On 4th Group staff, the Group Commander was Cadet Colonel Greg W. Wheeler from Rockville, Maryland. The Deputy Commander for Operations was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Martin D. Bomblaski from Emmadork, Indiana. The Deputy Commander for Support was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Nathan H. Jones from Columbus, Georgia. The Training Officer was Cadet Major Paul D. Bird from Billings, Montana. The Group Honor Representative was Cadet Major Kyle J. Smith from St. Petersburg, Florida. The Academic Athletic Officer was Cadet Captain Lorraine A. Roberts from Omaha, Nebraska. The Squadron 31 Assistant Operations Officer was Cadet Major Wayne K. Sumter from Grissom Air Force Base, Indiana. The 32nd Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel J. Christopher Luthley from Eglin, Oregon. The 33rd Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Kurt L. Sheldon from Park Falls, Wisconsin. The Squadron Commander of 34 was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Richard A. Klein from Johnville, Kentucky. The Squadron Commander of 35th Squadron was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Russell B. Smith from Rosebud, Pennsylvania. The Squadron Commander of 36th Squadron is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ronald O. Klatt from Balsam Lake, Wisconsin. The 37th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Patrick R. Violette from Afton, Wyoming. The 38th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert A. Bongio from Second Long Island, New York. The 39th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Mark G. Jackson from Vancouver, Washington. And finally, the 40th Squadron Commander was Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Holly R. Franz from Midland, Texas.
This will be Kim Coop right to the left here, right? Right by the pole, right?
You found her?
Well, it should be here.
At this time, the cadets in the class of 1983 this signifies the first class graduation, and they're commissioning as second lieutenants in the United States Air Force. The first-classmen are leaving the wing in the flying wedge formation. A cadet marches in the wedge formation only twice in 4 years at the academy, at the very beginning and at the very end of a cadet career. The inverted wedge, the opposite from today's flying wedge, is used when a new class is accepted into the wing at the beginning of the fourth class year. As the inverted wedge signifies the start of a cadet career, so does the flying wedge signify the successful completion of the
I'll let her face this way.
You better not face this way.
All these here are graduated. The class of 83 are all these. The ones up there are different years. Yeah. All the way down. I've had so many spots frozen in my life. Like, I'm gonna tell them to take a buck out of my income tax to put some radiated seats in there.
Just spot us.
That's a big slope. This is for a while.
Thanks so much.
4 years to get that.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise for the playing of our national anthem? Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. This saber exchange symbolizes that the class of 1983 has officially relinquished the command and control of the cadet wing to the new first class. The members of the class of 1983 wish the class of 1984 the best of luck in the year ahead, with full knowledge that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. The pass and review during today's parade serves two functions for the commander. It dismisses the troops in an organized manner and at the same time provides an opportunity to inspect the state of discipline and training. During the pass and review, you will notice that each squadron carries two flags. The small blue flag is the guidon and is used to aid the squadron in marching. The large flag is the colors of an operational organization. Visits are exchanged each year, thus providing the cadet a better understanding of the Air Force. The reviewing party for this morning's parade includes the Honorable Vern Orr, the Secretary of the Air Force, General Jerome F. O'Malley, the Vice Chief of Staff, Major General Robert E. Kelly, the Superintendent, Brigadier General Anthony J. Burschnick, the Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General William A. Ork, the Dean of Faculty.
We meet at your car, huh? We get lots of meat at your car. Yeah. Terror is what it is. Got to eat it. Just want to let you know in case of this is burnt.
Congratulations. Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Jeffrey C. Robin from Great Falls, Montana. The Wing Academic Athletic Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Jeffrey A. Hayes from West Columbia, Texas. The Wing Safety Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Chris A. Myers from Memphis, Tennessee. The Wing Administration Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Michael J. Eagleking from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. The Wing Public Affairs Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Barbara A. Huggett from Battle Creek, Michigan. Following Wing staff is First Group staff. The First Group Air Officer commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth E. Roth. First Group is commanded by the Group Sergeant Major Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Brent D. Brandon from Austin, Texas. The Group Training Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Michael A. Reichert from Plainview, New York. The Group Resources Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Kent D. Young from Glen Ellen, Illinois. The Group Administration Non-commissioned officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Mark A. Sylvanik from Palmetto, Florida. The 1st Cadet Squadron, Mach 1, Air Officer Commanding Major Warren A. Bennett, Jr. Mach 1 is commanded by the 1st Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Walter J. Lemansky from Security, Colorado. Deuce, the 2nd Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain John Diatino. Deuce is commanded by Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Edward O. Baca from San Diego, California. Cerberus 3, the 3rd Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Major Ralph W. Getchell. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Robert N. Colombo from Winter Haven, Florida. The 4th Cadet Squadron, Fighting 4, Air Officer Commanding Major George B. Watts. Force 1st Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Cedric C. Willis from Atlanta, Georgia. Wolfpack, the 5th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain Hector Marquez. 1st Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Kurt A. Hornbecker from Bull 6, the 6th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Major William F. Porter. 1st Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Lee Moore from Bossier, Louisiana. 007, the 7th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain Craig A. Peterson, United States Army. 7 is commanded by the Operations Non-commissioned officer, Cadet Master Sergeant Sue M. Niemeyer from Maryville, Indiana. Eagle 8, the 8th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Major Arthur W. Schwall, Jr. It is commanded by their Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, Cadet Master Sergeant Wayne H. McClary from Honolulu, Hawaii. Viking 9, the 9th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain Terrence A. Danford. Their first sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Richard D. Webb from Corpus Christi, Texas. Tiger 10, the 10th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain James M. Cotton. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Christopher T. Baker from Columbus, Ohio. The second group Air Officer Commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Vern McConnell. Second Group Sergeant Major is Cadet Chief Master Sergeant John P. Ullman from High Bridge, New Jersey. Second Group Administration Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Derek H. Abel from Toms River, New Jersey. The Second Group Resources Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Kevin C. Coleman from Alpharetta, Georgia. And the Second Group Safety Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Linda R. Urrutia from Pueblo, Colorado. The 11th Cadet Squadron, Rev 11, Air Officer Commanding Captain Ronald L. Morse. Commanded by the First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Jeffrey G. Lofgren from Burns, Oregon. Dirty Dozen, the 12th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain James A. Steele. 12 is commanded by their Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, Cadet Master Sergeant Jeffrey L. Anderson from Warner Robins, Georgia. The Bulldogs of the 13th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain James Dotson, Jr. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Stephen D. Cowlich from Henrietta, Oklahoma. Cobra 14, the 14th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain Thomas L. Phelps. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Michael J. Brennan from Middleton, Rhode Island. The War Eagles of the 15th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Major Jerry W. Shaw. Their first sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Scott R. Harrison from Evergreen, Colorado. The 16th Cadet Squadron, the Chicken Hawks. Air Officer Commanding Major Donna R. Mooney. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Crystal L. Strong from Las Vegas, Nevada. The 17th Cadet Squadron, Stalag. Air Officer Commanding Captain Clayton P. Bowen. First Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Gerald M. Desert from Fallbrook, California. Night Riders of the 18th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Major Michael Hunt. First Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Stephen Lashford from Michigan City, Idaho. The 19th Cadet Squadron, Starship. Air Officer Commanding Major Robert W. Pauley. Commanded by the Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, Cadet Master Sergeant John Gerton. The 20th Cadet Squadron, the Tough 20 Trolls. Air Officer Commanding Major Rick L. Garrison. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Mark A. Miller from Apopka, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Air Force Academy Color Guard, under the command of Cadet Master Sergeant Clayton Wisniewski from Clearwater, Florida.
They think so too.
Following the Academy Color Guard is the United States Air Force Academy State Color Squadron. Flags from all 50 states are represented. The commander today is Cadet Master Sergeant Anthony D. Sewer from Phoenix Springs, Florida. The third group Air Officer Commanding is Lieutenant Colonel James O. Johnson. Third group is commanded this morning by the Sergeant Major, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant David C. Johnson from Macon, Georgia. Third group Training Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Stephen H. M. Gillen from Reston, Virginia. The Group Resources Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Lawrence S. Reed from Hong Kong. The Group Safety Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Edwin B. Bogue from Sunnyvale, California.
They allow that?
They shouldn't. I don't know why they're letting the guy.
Blackjack, the 21st Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Major Lawrence R. Veraki. First Sergeant and Cadet Senior Master Sergeant John M. Sieverling from Fort Worth, Texas. The 22nd Cadet Squadron, the Tarantulas. Air Officer Commanding Captain Robert E. Worley. Tarantulas are commanded by their Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, Cadet Master Sergeant Vincent J. Marrero from East Northport, New York. The Barnstormers of the 23rd Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain Robert E. Veal. 23 is commanded by the Operations Non-Commissioned Officer Cadet Master Sergeant John A. Hines from Fort Defiance, Arizona. The 24th Cadet Squadron, the Phantoms. Air Officer Commanding Major Larney McClung. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Maureen G. Moslow from Buffalo, New York. The 25th Cadet Squadron, Red Eye. Air Officer Commanding Captain John T. Tyrell. Red Eye's First Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Roger T. Sitt from Medina, Minnesota. The 26th Cadet Squadron, the Barones. Air Officer Commanding Captain Charlotte Green. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Robert L. Schaefer from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The Thunderbirds of the 27th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding Captain Ronald E. Richards. Operations Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Stephen Johnson from Los Angeles, California. The 28th Cadet Squadron, the Magpies. Air Officer Commanding Captain Wade J. Kearns. First Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Kevin C. Zeke from Tulia, Texas. The Black Panthers of the 29th Cadet Squadron. Air Officer Commanding the 30th Cadet Squadron, the Knights of 3rd. Air Officer Commanding Captain James W. Collins, Jr. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Craig A. Hughes. The 4th Group, Air Officer Commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Edward D. Huber. The 4th Group Sergeant Major is Chief Master Sergeant Kenneth C. Grossi. 4th Group is commanded by the Sergeant Major, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Eric M. Huber from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 4th Group Administration Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Joe B. Wiseman from San Diego, California. 4th Group Resources, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Mark A. Gillett from Monterey, California. 4th Group Safety Non-Commissioned Officer is Cadet Master Sergeant Chris Kosegi from Plainview, New York. The 31st Cadet Squadron, the Grim Reapers, their Officer Commanding Captain Kimberly J. Dalrymple. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Mike Jensen from Chicago, Illinois. The Roadrunners of the 32nd Cadet Squadron, their Officer Commanding Major Michael B. Lange. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Cheryl Diudia from Long Island, New York. The 33rd Cadet Squadron, the King Rats, Air Officer Commanding Major William A. Whitlow, United States Marine Corps. First Sergeant, Cadet Chief Senior Master Sergeant Steve R. Roll from Sault Ste. Marie, Minnesota. The Thunderbolts of the 34th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Major Joseph W. Smith, commanded by the First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Peter Egger from Littleton, New Hampshire.
All I gotta say is Kim's gonna be on a lot of pictures.
The Wild Weasels of the 35th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain Randall B. Watson. First Sergeant is Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Jeff Pressman from Atlanta, Georgia.
Because it's a telephoto, you know.
The 36th Cadet Squadron, the Pink Panthers, Air Officer Commanding Major John E. Hayden. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Robert Smith from San Diego, California. The Sky Raiders of the 37th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain Robert Dixon, Jr. First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Kerry Hart from Reading, Pennsylvania. The 39th Cadet Squadron, the Jedi Knights, Air Officer Commanding Major Stephen J. DeHaven. Commanded by the First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Stephen Sheffro from Los Angeles, California. The 40 Thieves of the 40th Cadet Squadron, Air Officer Commanding Captain David P. Shanahan, Jr. 40 is commanded by the First Sergeant, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Daniel Krasowski from Aurora, Colorado.
Oh, excuse me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Air Force Academy Band, led by Drum Major Technical Sergeant Carl Steers and commanded by Lieutenant Colonel John D. McCord.
Looks a little big.